So if you've been following my channel, you know my wife and I are working to build an off-grid cabin in north central Idaho, but we currently live in southwestern Idaho, about a 5.5 hour journey. So we try to make every trip count whenever we go up there to work on the project. This next trip we're about to head out on, we're going to take a lot of heavy building materials, and to accomplish that task, my neighbor across the street was so kind as to lend us his tandem axle trailer. However, it needs one tiny repair before we get going. Herein lies the trouble. This thing is broken free and has a tendency to rub on the tire, especially if you load it down heavy, which we will be. I need to back this thing into my driveway where I can get to my welder and see if we can push that back in and tack it together. Pretty tight working in here, kind of an awkward position. I was only able to get like a couple of places that fender well pushed in where it has good contact with the fender. Hopefully that's going to be enough. Make a couple tacks in there and we'll see how that goes. Well, those aren't the prettiest welds ever, but I think they're going to hold just fine.
3 days later.
Back up at the homestead, we got to work unloading wood for our footers and then went to work unloading the rest of the trailer, including this stack of zip sheathing. You know, back to the footers, we originally were not going to do the footers or any of the concrete work for that matter, but after the third concrete contractor in a row bailed on us at the last minute, we decided if it was going to get done, we were going to have to do it ourselves. While we're unloading materials, we had two neighbors show up to see what we were doing. They were quite interested in the project, and one of them returned after just a bit with some twine and stakes and started helping us lay out the footers. We didn't even know we were going to get to that part of the project for sure during this trip, but with neighbors there ready to help, we said, well, yeah, let's get going on it. What a welcome surprise. So the next morning, Marissa and I had to run into town to get rebar that we had not brought with us from Boise. By the time we got back, the neighbors were there already starting to lay out wood for the footer forms. It was pretty hot out that day and we didn't get going until 11 o'clock because of the delay in getting the rebar. So by about 7 or so of that evening, we were just whipped. And the guy said, hey, it's only going to take us about 3 hours to finish this morning. So why don't we just pause for the evening and we'll see you guys back here in the morning. So that's exactly what we did.
So as I already showed you, Marissa and I brought all these 2x8s to make the forms with, and we thought we would be doing it pretty much on our own, and we're gonna have to get a lot more stakes, form stakes. But the neighbors that came to help us, one of them actually still works in some concrete work, and he brought up this whole trailer of form boards and all the stakes pretty much that we needed. So we had to use very few. We used a few pieces of the wood we brought up, but most of it we just used the neighbors' forms.
So here's our first day's work complete, just ready for the rebar, waiting for the guys to show up. And once they did, took really no time at all to get the rebar put in. We were finished by noon, but here it is, number 4 rebar put in, 20-inch overlaps, 16-inch cross pieces tying it all together. I was quite surprised how quickly it all came together. As if we weren't surprised enough, one of the neighbors had this skid steer that he brought up and helped move a lot of dirt and gravel out of the way in preparation for the concrete trucks coming.
So the two neighbors that came up to help us, one lives about 400 feet further down the hill from us and is currently still actively, somewhat active in construction, has a small construction business. And the other neighbor lives about 400 feet further up the hill from us, and he's retired, but he's retired from being a vocational educator in construction. So I guess we ended up getting property in the perfect location between two great neighbors that are capable and very willing to help out. So man, sometimes you're feeling a little bit down and things are tough, and then you get neighbors like that wow, just how they turn around your attitude and turn around your disposition in life. Fantastic neighbors.
So it had been blazing hot the last couple of days. Just in time for the concrete to arrive, it started to rain, dropping the temperature by a substantial amount. Marissa had to leave. She had to get back to Boise to her regular job, and I was afraid we were going to be really short-handed. But once again, the neighbors came through and we had plenty of help. Just neighbors showing up from all over the place to help out. Unfortunately, partially because of this, I did not get the video footage that I wanted, both in putting together the forms as well as pouring concrete. It was just hard for me to see all these people come to help me and then say, hey, thanks for coming to help me. Now get to work while I video you. So I had to put down the camera and get to work helping these fantastic neighbors. Here you have Don running the chute. He lives down the hill from us, and his friend Dan scooping the concrete out of the chute. And next to him, Curtis, our closest neighbor. And then down further at the forms, we have John, neighbor from up the hill, and Renita, that's Don's wife. So where I was so afraid we were going to be shorthanded, we had more than enough help. There was about a 20-foot section in the middle that the concrete truck just couldn't reach, so we had to wheelbarrow it, but that went pretty quick and actually wasn't nearly so bad as what you might think. Well, the next part of the project will be the stem walls. We decided to go with ICFs for the stem walls, and if you're not familiar with that, that's ICF or insulated concrete forms, basically concrete forms made out of styrofoam. We decided to go that route since it seemed like the most DIY friendly, and since we don't know how much help we'll have, if any, that seemed like the best choice for us. Those are ordered and should be here within the next couple of days, and then probably take us 2 or 3 days to get them put together, and we'll order concrete. Well, here they are. The footers are done and onto the stem walls. We hope you'll join us for that part of the project, and until then, stay safe and keep building your dreams.